6 or 5 or whatever it is as I'm pointing at it. And if I move to the left and there were like a 1 or a 2 there, the hundreds place is 10 squared, because that's 100 is 10 times 10, right? So that would be that unit times 10 to the third power, or 10 to the second power. Oh, and actually, sometimes instead of talking about 10 to the first power, if I were talking about meters, if I had 10 meters, all right, instead of saying 10 meters, I might say 1 decameter, and that means take that and basically multiply it by 10, right? Works pretty well, right? You see that? Pardon me. Yeah, 10 was saved in, I guess, because I have 2 characters here. And that's interesting. It goes by number of characters. 5 times 5 plus 5 more, 10. Or 1 decameseta, because it can apply to other things. Also, you can actually use this in computer programming too. You can have decabytes, which is 10 bytes. Well, when we have the hundreds place, 10 times 10, or 10 squared, 10 to the second power, that's hecta. So that would be 1 hectameter, right, is 100 meters. Makes sense, right? And then 10 to the third power is kilo. So that's kilometers. How much was it? 150. I'll look at armor anyway. So that goes into kilometers, and as 10 to the third power, 10 times 10 times 10, because 10 cubed. Oh, and again, just like 10 to the second power is squared, all right, because that forms a square. Well, if you take a square and you extend it a depth, give a square depth, it turns into a cube. So things to the third power are, of course, cubed. Ta-da! Makes sense. Okay, let me see genes. Cancel that. Buying. No, she can. It's longer. I might sell that back. It doesn't matter. I've lost it. 17, 69, best is actually a little bit better, so yeah, so we're going back. So, 10 times 10 times 10 is a kilo, or a kilometer, or, and when I say kilometer, that's more common. Shield. I don't know. Okay, I don't know. So I have to earn more meseta for her anyway. That's okay though, I don't mind grinding her a little. So 10 times 10 times 10 is kilometers. And that's, individual units of 10. Now, after that, we don't have special names for things after we've gone past 1,000, because we have tens, and we have hundreds, and we have thousands, just like in English. And then the next thing we go up to is millions, right? We might say 10,000, which is 10 times 1,000, or we might say 100,000, but we don't have special names for the specific in-betweens. We start hopping around by threes at that point. And that might be the thing that happens if we were to meet an alien species. They might not hop around by 3 power units, they might hop around by 4 power units. So they might put like a comma every 4th one and have multipliers, or heck, we could have different ways of putting it. We could say 10,000, 100,000. No, we don't really have special, because that's 1 times 1,000 and then 10 times, yeah, so, yeah, we don't really have, when we go up higher factors of 10, and 10,000s is 10 to the 4th power, 10 times 10 times 10 to the 4 times, and that makes sense because it's, 1, 2, 3, I'm sorry, it's 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, because this is the 1's place, the 2's place, but it's always 1 unit down, because that's 10 to the 0, 10 to the 1st. thirds, 10 to the second. This is 3 to the left of the zeros place, or the 10 to the zeros power, the ones place. So that's thousands, 10 to the third. This is 4 to the left of the 10 to the 0 power. Oh, and keeping in mind, other cultures might not do things, left to right or right to left. And I believe it was the Incan cultures, they actually did things in columns. So you knew stuff was of a higher unit because it was a column, or no, not the Incas, but you get the idea. We don't necessarily have to do it a certain way. We could do it a different way. It just occurs to me, that's a cyborg which is poisoned. Well, yeah, I guess because cyborgs, when we talk about cyborgs, we don't talk about pure robots, we talk about they have some flesh, so, like in RoboCop. So I guess she, as a cyborg, would have some flesh that could be quote-unquote poison. But, we're talking science fiction, although it's becoming more science fact now, because people do actually have, internal body parts that are made of metal and controlled like people with titanium hips nowadays. So it's interesting that as science goes along in science fiction, it becomes science fact with time. So that's pretty cool, and hopefully when you're looking at this, you realize that it's a great reason to learn these things. It's a great reason to learn about the metric system and how we taught in the sciences, because you can learn how to make cyborgs of your own one day, and hopefully you all like that. Hopefully you like that, because it's a good thing to learn along the way, right? Right? Whether you do it in silly voices or not, it'll be a good thing to learn, right? She used the No, I bought it anyway. Crapper. I gotta sell it back. That's a loss of money. No, wait. Oh, great. Sell it twice. That's the cancel button. Okay. Pardon. I'm on an emulator with this, so I kind of gotta remember which keys I designated for certain things. All best, really. Ribbon goes on the head. Vest goes on the body. New boots. Other boots. I don't know if the cyborgs come here boots, maybe. Sell it here. No. Got vest and ribbon, so. Who's the other shop, I think, that sold the boots? So I'll go with that in a moment. Let me rest at the end and rest the cyborg. I don't know whatnot. So, that's a reason why to learn these things, is you can learn something cool. Heck, you might even be a physicist someday who's learning how to travel, in space, and you'll learn the basics of, the system. You'll have to take chemistry coursework in physics. So, understanding this, and as I've mentioned, all those metric systems you're learning, metric units, those will come up in physics and calculations, because they most certainly calculate energy as well, just like you do in chemistry, and they use chemistry and biology as well. And who knows, we might even have cyborgs in space at some point. So hopefully you like that, what you're learning here, it has to do with cyborgs and Phantasy Star and space traveling vessels and stuff like that. And hopefully you'll learn a little bit about English too, because I'm teaching you about acronyms, and hopefully you're learning about it. I don't know, it's not really me teaching you, you're learning it from me. That's it, because, it's you who goes onto my channel, hopefully, and proceeds to learn about this, and hopefully chuckles along the way. So let me see. Oops. Well, let me grind these guys a little bit then, and some Meseta in the process. But yeah, the other thing about science is that you recognize that people want certainty, and science doesn't give you that. Fact of the matter is, if it's not testable, there's no potential to be wrong in science. There's really no potential for it to be right either. And if there's no potential for it to be right, then you can't really learn anything from it. So there has to be the possibility of something being wrong. And it's okay to be wrong. That's how we learn. That's how learning happens. So don't be so surprised at the idea of something potentially being wrong. You're going to be wrong. But that's how you learn to be right. That's how you learn to fix things. I'm not saying you have to make a mistake in order to, learn. You could learn from other people's mistakes. But that's part of it is you have to at least hypothetically be wrong. You have to at least think that, and that's science. And like I've mentioned earlier in this, if you're listening, is, you have observations. Observations go to facts. They lead to hypotheses, which are effectively educated guesses. Those build up into experimentation, and eventually you can get, mathematical understandings of things, which are laws, and I think that's where you learn things like Kelvin's laws. And the combination of those things leads into a theory, which is really an explanation why. It's a model. It's not just an educated guess. It's something that's gone a step beyond that. When people say they've never heard, the fact of something, they've only heard the theory. But the principle is you're using the term theory really like one would use the word hypothesis. And that's a bit different. I mean, when something develops into a theory, a model, an explanation why, you still have to experiment with it. And there are still, predictions you make based upon that, and you experiment. And sometimes you have to modify the theory. Theories never lead you to certainty, only probabilities. No matter how certain you are of something, you are never absolutely certain. That's just a given. That's life. Just occurred to me. Hey, Fuzzy. That's the cat. It's not that technical. Oh, anti. That's better or worse? I don't remember what these do. I have to look at a, screw that. Gotta get the poison cured and rebuild up her MP again. Town on the other side, so alright. Still learning this. Whatnot. Or relearning, because it's been a while. The thing is that even at times you modify theories. A lot of Newton's ideas about physics were, they were not subject to thoughts of relativity. And it was discovered that some of the things he was developing were really based upon what you do on Earth. And when you go into space and you start flying, and you have to deal with different gravitational fields, you learn that a lot of it's, relative and it doesn't quite fit. But that doesn't mean Newtonian physics was completely thrown out. We still use it. It's still a good system, for making what is effectively, educated guesses, which is estimates. That's the word I'm looking for. We still do estimates, based on Newtonian physics. Nothing wrong with that, all right? Even though they had